All right, today we're tackling a python's parasite problem and cracking a microscopic mystery. We're heading down to Australia's Northern Territory, where something is just not right with the powerful water pythons. And the very first clue? It isn't found in the swamp or on the snakes themselves. It's inside their blood.
Okay, just look at this. Right there, inside that blood cell, you're looking at a tiny intruder. It's a parasite, caught in the act. And this little guy is not a friendly visitor. For a lot of these snakes, this microscopic organism is causing some serious problems. But you know, seeing it is one thing. Figuring out how in the world it got there, that's the real puzzle.
So yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How did it get there? This isn't your average infection. It's a full-blown biological mystery with some really strange rules. So, come on, let's follow the evidence and see where it leads.
First up, let's properly introduce the key players in this drama. Every good mystery needs them, right? On one side, you have our victim, the water python, a pretty powerful predator in its own right. And on the other, the intruder, a nasty little blood parasite called Hepatozoon.
And believe me, this isn't just a case of the sniffles. For the pythons that get a heavy infection, things get bad. They have trouble growing, their overall body condition is poor, and yeah, their survival rates just tank. So figuring out how this thing spreads isn't just academic, it's super important for the health of the entire python population.
So, to figure out how this parasite is getting around, we need to understand what exactly we're up against. And this is where our mystery gets its first real twist. This parasite has let's just say, a very weird way of traveling.
So meet Hepatozoon. Now you might be thinking of something like malaria, right? A mosquito bites you, you get sick. Simple. Well, Hepatozoon doesn't play by those rules. It has this bizarre roundabout life cycle, and cracking this is the key to the whole thing.
Okay, get ready for this. The parasite's path is wild. Step 1, some kind of invertebrate, let's say a tick, bites an infected snake. It gets a nice blood meal, parasites included. Step 2, the parasite then grows and develops inside that tick. But here's the kicker. Step 3, for a new animal to get infected, it doesn't get bitten by the tick. No, that would be too easy. It has to actually eat the tick. I know, it's crazy. So this totally changes the game. We're not just looking for something that bites snakes, we're looking for something that snakes end up eating.
And that brings us to our prime suspect, ticks. I mean, they're all over these reptiles. The theory makes sense, right? A python gets annoyed by a tick latched onto it, bites it off, swallows it, and boom, the parasite has a new home. So the next logical step for the scientists was to go find these ticks and see if they were carrying the goods.
And now for the fieldwork. To test their theory, researchers basically went on a huge scientific stakeout. They were out in the Northern Territory, trapping reptiles and carefully, painstakingly, collecting every single tick they could get their hands on. All of this was evidence to be bagged and tagged for the lab.
And what's interesting is, they didn't just look at the pythons. They collected ticks from a bunch of different reptiles to get the bigger picture. As you can see, they got ticks from yellow-spotted monitors, a ton of them actually, plus water pythons, frilled-necked lizards, you name it. In total, they had 187 samples ready to go. They had their suspects in custody. Now was time for interrogation.
This is where the investigation moves from the muddy floodplains to the sterile lab. The mission now is pure forensics. But instead of looking for fingerprints, they were hunting for something much, much smaller. The parasite's unique DNA. To do this, they used a super cool technique called PCR. The easiest way to think about it is like a genetic photocopier. It can find one tiny microscopic piece of the parasite's DNA inside a tick, and then it makes millions and millions of copies. It basically takes a whisper of evidence and turns it into a shout. The perfect tool for finding a microscopic smoking gun. So picture this. You've got 187 tick samples all lined up, ready for this high-tech DNA scan. The tension is real. The big question on everyone's mind is the parasite's DNA going to show up in any of them?
And the result? It was a bombshell. A whopping 57.7% of the ticks came back positive. More than half. The parasite's DNA wasn't just present in the tick population, it was everywhere. They found it in all 3 species of ticks they looked at.
So at this point, it seems pretty open and shut, right? The study confirms it. Ticks are carrying the exact same parasite DNA that's making the python sick. They're the getaway car. Case closed? Or is it? Because this is precisely where the investigation took a sharp, unexpected turn. Because when the scientists looked closer at the actual DNA they found, they realized they didn't just have one suspect. They had 2.
Okay, so this is the major plot twist. They found two totally different types of parasite DNA. The first type, exactly what they were looking for. It perfectly matched the Hepatozoon parasite that was known to infect the local pythons. But the second type was a complete shocker. It was way more closely related to parasites you find in mammals. We're talking cats, dogs, that kind of thing.
This discovery just blew the whole case wide open. I mean, think about it. What was a mammal-related parasite doing in ticks that were collected from reptiles in the Australian outback? It just didn't make any sense.
This last bit of evidence changes everything. This isn't a simple story of a tick biting a snake. Oh no. It's a much more complex, tangled web of infection that connects totally different parts of this ecosystem.
So the new theory goes like this. These ticks aren't picky eaters. They're not just feeding on reptiles. They have to be feeding on mammals in the area too. And that's where they're picking up this second type of parasite. The researchers even suggest an animal like the dusky rat, which, by the way, is a main meal for water pythons, might be the missing link. Suddenly you have this hidden network, with parasites jumping between mammals and reptiles, all using the same tick taxi service.
And this is what's so cool about science, right? Instead of one simple answer, the investigation ended with a whole new list of even more fascinating questions, like are the pythons eating infected rats, or are they still just eating the ticks directly? And what mammals are acting as the secret host for this other parasite? And what happens when these two different parasite species are interacting in the same place? It's an unsolved case.
And maybe that's the biggest takeaway here. What started as a simple question, why are these pythons sick, uncovered this incredible, invisible web connecting reptiles, ticks, and mammals. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other hidden dramas are playing out in the world, right under our noses, just waiting to be found?